Standing now on East Cemetery Hill. It's one of the quieter spots on the battlefield. Just behind me, you can see the gatehouse for the cemetery. The National Cemetery and, of course, the civilian Evergreen Cemetery are just behind me there. Over here, you'll see our friend Gary Edelman from the American Battlefield Trust shooting some video on the same conflict that I'm here to talk about. We're going to have dinner later. Make sure you go and check out the American Battlefield Trust. I'll put a link in the description to their channel. Subscribe. Fantastic content. Gary knows his stuff. I pride myself on my expertise on the battlefield at Gettysburg, and I am but a mere amateur compared to what that man knows about this place. He's a licensed battlefield guide. He's the chief historian for the American Battlefield Trust, and just an all-around good guy. So make sure you do that. Anyway, back to the story. On the second day of the Battle of Gettysburg, July 2nd, Robert E. Lee's plan was simultaneous flank attacks on the Union left and the Union right. Everybody's familiar with that famous fishhook formation that the Union had. Well, the fishhook ran from Culp's Hill, which is right there. It's really not that far, 400 or 500 yards, something like that, down through that valley, up here to Cemetery Hill, and then around and down, at the time, at least early on July 2nd, down to the end of Cemetery Ridge. Eventually, we all know that it would be anchored on Little Round Top. So Lee's attack came in the form of General Longstreet, who was supposed to launch an attack on the Confederate right, which would be the Union left, where Dan Sickles' 3rd Corps had moved out to an advanced position. We've talked about that in another video. I did a 45-minute video on Longstreet's assault. Link in the description for that. But simultaneous to that was supposed to come an attack here on the Union right. Late in the afternoon, about the time that the attack was unfolding along Sickles' front, a cannonade began. The artillery up here, the Union artillery on East Cemetery Hill, and the Union artillery over at Culp's Hill were firing down on Ewell's 2nd Corps, which held the town. You can see the school there and the town beyond. That was where the 2nd Corps was. But no attack came. Cannon fired back and forth for a while. Eventually that attack did come in the form of 2 brigades. It was Harry Hayes and his Louisianans, which would have come from this way right here. And then to their left would have been the brigade of Isaac Avery. A little behind the scenes, watching the guys from the American Battlefield Trust do their thing.
The next time you get out here to Gettysburg, I encourage you to go up here on the gorgeous Cemetery Hill. There's so many stories of what happened up here between the 11th Corps on July 2nd. We have a Scott Hancock statue.
We're standing now on a knoll that looks toward where we were standing on East Cemetery Hill. The attack by the 2 Confederate brigades came through those woods. They swung around like a door. The Union infantry, the little infantry that they had, was spread out down where you see the road at the base of the hill. They were spaced out, Gary told me, some 4, 5, 6 feet apart between each man. That's how thin the ranks were. And so they were quickly driven off. The brigade, Avery's brigade, would have come up right here, and so their flank would have been facing this direction. And you can see there are Union batteries on this knoll, which is the rise between East Cemetery Hill and Culp's Hill, which is right behind me. And so they were able to fire into the flanks of the Confederates as they made their way up that hill. But they were able to drive off those Union infantry and enter into the hand-to-hand combat which took place up at the top. The attack didn't even start until about 8 p.m., which in the days before daylight savings time is the equivalent of 9 p.m. today. So even in the middle of summer in south central Pennsylvania, it's pretty well dark by 9 p.m. And certainly by the time the fighting ended, which may have been as late as the actual 9 or 10 p.m., which would have been an hour or two later from the attack, it was certainly very dark by that point. It's difficult to imagine when you stand here, but I'll try to give you a look from the bottom of the hill. It's quite a jaunt to come up this hill in the face of artillery fire, in the face of concentrated musket fire, but up they came. This is the view that Avery's brigade would have had as they marched up East Cemetery Hill. It's about as steep as the face of Little Round Top. The major difference, I think, would be the lack of boulders that will break your ankles. But still, marching up this in the face of mini balls and artillery shells, just not something I'd be interested in. It's hard enough to do as it is. And then, of course, assuming you lived marching up the hill, when you got to the crest of the hill, you'll see what you're looking at that point. You're looking at canister fire. Fire from cannons at point blank range that basically turned them into shotguns and would tear holes through large chunks of the line. You can see the artillery emplacement there and the emplacements over there. It's incredible that the Confederates made it this far. When the Confederates reached the top, the fighting became hand to hand. The artillerymen here, not having rifles, started using hand spikes, started throwing rocks at the Confederates. They fought tooth and nail to hold on. One of the nearby monuments says that they stayed here and manned their guns until every round of canister had been fired. And it was sometime between 9 and 10 p.m. before reinforcements had helped to finally repulse the Confederates back down off the hill. For a while, it seemed as though the Union position could be in peril. But like many battles, it comes down to who gets the reinforcements and when. The Confederates didn't receive any reinforcements. They didn't receive any support for this attack. It was just those two brigades. The Union did, and it came in the form of none other than Winfield Scott Hancock's 2nd Corps. The same men who had been pouring units into places like the wheat field over on the Union left. You can see Hancock's statue right there. And then just over here is Oliver Howard's statue. He's the commander of the 11th Corps. Those reinforcements ended up being the difference, and the Confederates were driven down back off the hill. And East Cemetery Hill was saved for the Union.